we are going to talk about and continue talking about stereo sound. All right, let's back up for a moment, just do a quick review. Of course, we started in the mono world. We're actually going to start a mono track today. If I don't have one already, I got to take a look at what I built for us today. But yeah, the monaural and monophonic. So again, monaural is directly to an ear from one signal. The monophonic is one signal to one speaker played out in a room, and both your ears are hearing it. Then we said, the world ended up working in stereo, and they defined left and right, which means there was some stuff playing in the left ear, some stuff playing in the right ear, and some stuff playing in both ears. And playing that out into a environment allows us to hear some crosstalk, meaning the left speaker goes to the right ear, the right speaker goes to the left ear, but you do have this timing issue. And we're utilizing the brain's capacity to understand time and space to get that full experience of the stereo recording and the stereo performance. And then they came out with binaural, which was a concept of taking both the left and right signals, signal 1 and signal 2, mixing them together through a dummy head. And that dummy head is not really a dummy head, although in some cases there are real dummy heads out there. But we talked yesterday about, at what point does the signal from my voice right now to your speakers of your laptop, iPad, or cell phone or earbuds kind of mix down? Because I'm only recording or producing right now a single mono channel, but eventually it gets to both your ears somehow, some way. So along the way of that signal path from my voice to your ears, there was a dummy head, something that mixed left and right together and then sent it back out. So it was a stereo signal on your end. So these top ones right here are probably the most popular ones. And then once we get down here, now we're talking a little more modern day. So the first modern day one we discussed yesterday was biphonic. And obviously that is direct signal from the left channel to your left ear with no crosstalk, and direct signal from the right ear, the right signal, or the signal number 2, to your right ear with no crosstalk, giving you this really cool virtual span of stereo field out in front of you. It's something that your brain can detect, and it creates this really cool concept. And we're going to work with a little bit of that biphonic and binaural concepts today when we go into the Logic Panner. Other things that have happened along the way, we talked a little bit about transaural, which was duplicating channel 1 and channel 2, and then allowing those to cancel each other out through crosstalk. And it provides a little more depth in the stereo signal. And again, played out loud in a room, not directly to your ears. So that cancellation actually does create some sort of difference in the space compared to stereophonic. We talked about pseudo phonic, which is specific crosstalk, purposeful crosstalk in the signal path. Whereas over here in biphonic, there is no crosstalk. There's no blending of left channel and right channel, but here you're purposely blending them together. So they're cross-connected, meaning the left goes to the right and picks up a little of the right signal, and the right goes to the left and picks up a little of that. And so you get a very distinct result from that. And then yesterday we were talking about taking a very mono-esque sound, a very non-panned sound, still define left and right channels, and then putting them close to your ears, not directly on your ears, not like headphones, but relatively close. And one of these things ends up becoming something like, we said, those gaming chairs that have the speakers built into the chairs. Or even if you go to Disney and you're on a ride and there's stuff playing, right behind you, they're able to utilize this technique to kind of produce an experience that otherwise could not be had without this kind of monitoring. So very interesting things happening in the stereo world. There's so much more experimentation with stereo signals. And as technology changes, as we said, things in the software are going to change, and things in the world are going to change. The way we use our phones have really changed things. So we want to basically start to adhere to that. We, as engineers, we should be aware that these things are happening. So what I put in here really quick is just a very simple, I think, a Latin cowbell. Right? And so let me get back at us for a moment. There we go. So you can hear, and I'm going to put my microphone very close to the right speaker today. Just to give you a point of reference, the right speaker is pretty much going to have direct sound to this mic. You might get a little crosstalk with the left speaker, but that crosstalk in this environment today would be very useful because you're actually going to hear some of the differences as I move things around. Let's just start talking about simple panning, right? As I push play, then I'll try to keep the microphone as close to the right speaker as possible. As we push play and I move the signal around using the panner, we know that it goes from the left to the right. So I'll do that just to show you. Right now it's dead center. So you're going to hear dead center sound. And I'm going to pan it off to the right. So it seems a little louder in the microphone now because all of the power, all of the volume now moved over to the right-hand side. Now I'm going to move over to the left-hand side. So you're hearing a little less sound, though you are still hearing it. In the environment, we are the dummy head at this point. We're actually taking in direct sound from the left speaker to my left ear. And then in a timed delay, it's hitting my right ear. And this is giving me the perception that the sound is coming out of the left-hand side of the speaker. So do it one more time. This time I'm going to move it, and you can hear the differences as it goes. So you can hear the difference in, for you guys, you'll hear a difference in volume, right? The volume change a little bit as it moves over to the left-hand side from the right-hand side. And that's just basic panning. If you're in a space like I am or relatively close to the speaker, you're hearing a huge change. As it's hitting my left ear, it's becoming much more loud. Time delay to the right ear, basically telling my brain, hey, the sound's on the left, sound's on the right, depending on where I put it, right? For you guys in this dummy head situation of listening to my microphone and then it mixing it together and sending it to you, all you're really hearing is volume changes, not perceptual distance or changes in your stereo field. That's just because we're broadcasting in a very unique way. But panning isn't the only thing we can do. In Logic, built into the software, and yes, by the way, check it out, Mr. O'Toole got himself 10.5. Woo, 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 woo. Yeah, baby. I've been using all the new little fun toys. They are very, very fun. Like this. Boom. Look at that. What the hell is that? That's right. This is the old live loops grid. I have played with this a little bit, which is kind of cool. And I have programmed it into my MIDI device as well. So some cool stuff. I probably will take a while for me to transition into the live loops view because it's just brand new technology and I haven't sat down and really worked it out. But from what I've watched people playing with and done stuff through demos on Apple's website, it's a really, really, nice, cool, upgraded version of, stuff that we're very familiar with. They updated a couple other things, like for instance, if you notice, the EQ is a little different now, has a lot more numbers in it, basically showing you the in-betweens, and it's a lot more detailed. We could put it that way. And then, the analyzer post and pre is still the available presets. And then there is a lot of new stuff in here too. I don't know if you look through any of your presets, if you've upgraded Logic Pro, but that was a really cool surprise on how they upgraded some of the effects. The other one that is still kind of the same, but again, they've added a few little details here and there, nothing crazy, is their compressor. They didn't change any of the compressor modes. They did add a few new compressor types in your presets, so check those out when you get a chance. And what was the other one that I liked? Audio sampler. Yeah, this one was kind of cool too. This is a new utility. So the EXS24 now they've kind of broken it out a little bit. So you can see that it looks a lot like the EXS24. And now you have the ability to drop in samples in here and then use some of the same stuff that we used in the EXS24 to create your own sample library, right? And we can shrink that down. Remember the zones, the range, and all that other good stuff. And then there's also, yeah, some cool presets in these that now allow us to do some really fun stuff. But I'm in a cowbell right now, so we really can't do any of that until we get ourselves into a MIDI track. Wawa, what do you got, buddy?
Yeah,
You've been playing with Logic 5?
yeah, but the head drum, some of the preset that I used to do my deep bass 808
Yep.
are gone. Like first
Yes,
for
they
the hit
are.
machine
They
and the
have
boogie
reset.
808.
Yep. They
They
reset
were
some of
more,
those settings.
huh?
Um, there is a library of sound that you still have. So you didn't necessarily record or install over the old stuff. So you might see it pop up in something called legacy. So it might be in a subcategory. I don't know if I can just jump to it very easily from where I am right now. But when you go into your 808, right, and you create something, maybe it'll be in software instrument. And
Like a deep bass, like a drop like
right, yeah, no, you're saying your old settings, the old stuff that you had, right, is missing.
yeah.
So let's go in the electronic kit, and you can see. Look at all my. I still haven't downloaded everything. I'm trying to get there. You see, my 808's missing
The
right
heat machine one.
now. But yeah, it's not that you recorded over it, Wawa. It's that. Yeah, what a pain! I can't get to it because it's hidden behind my thing here. What a pain in the butt that is. Um, but if you go, let's say I put Boom Bap on, right? And I go into the drum machine designer and I want to add a new sound. I gotta find where my sounds are here. There we go. And then we can change it here. So there could be some new stuff dropping into here. You also look like the drum machine designer looks a little different now too, by the way. But you could load the audio file and then you have to go find it on your computer. Now, a lot of times they've placed it in a folder called legacy, which just means old sounds. So you didn't necessarily delete the old sounds, you just replaced and changed the viewing of the old sounds. Um, so I don't want to get too far with that, but yeah, I mean that's simply the idea. And I still have sounds at the one at school, my software at school. I still have sounds from when we first installed Logic. So I have a lot of sounds that you guys wouldn't have because you have a more current version at school. And um, the computer was installed about a year ago, and then the software was updated. So you lost a lot of the old library sounds at school. But if you have the same computer over the course of time, and all you're doing is reinstalling the software, the libraries end up staying. You just have to go find them again. You had a follow up question, Wawa? Go ahead. What's up? No, no dice. Okay. So yeah, I mean, the point being that content is still there. You didn't delete it unless you deleted the computer and did a fresh install of a brand new version. You didn't get rid of it. It's there somewhere. You just got to go find it.
Yeah, one question though. How do you create like a deep 808 with the new update version?
Like I said, I don't have the library fully installed yet. I didn't get through all the installs on it. I don't
Oh,
know where to find it, but you can always take a current sample and do a little parameter changing in the EQ to get it to be really deep. Deep. But if you're looking for something very specific, it's probably something you're going to have to go either find, sample, or buy. You're not as much as if you know that what you're looking for is an 808, then you just have to manipulate the 808 to sound like that. If you're not sure if it's an 808 and you just want this big, deep, booming kick, then either you have to take the time to make it happen through one of the plugins, or you go out and you get the sample. And that's usually the process that I would take. If I can't make it happen in the software, I'm just going to go find the sample, which either means buying it or um, sampling it and changing it enough that it's not a copyright issue. All right, so let's get into the, like I said, the panner is giving us that sound left and right. One more time, we're dead center right now. We'll pan it off to the right. We'll pan it off to the left. And put it back in the middle. So you guys are hearing changes in volume, but you're not really hearing changes in panning because of the way we're recording to stream to Zoom. That's just want to summarize that. But it isn't the only thing you have to do. Panning is very linear, very horizontal. You're only going left to right from wherever the speakers are. We don't have to do that. Logic has a nice integrated binaural panner. So binaural, again, is using that dummy head, if you recall. Hold on. Bring up my I thought I had it open. I guess I closed it because I quit everything because I'm crazy like that. We gonna open this or what are we doing here? There we go. So if you recall, binaural is using a dummy head, which is just a piece of hardware or software that pre-mixes it and sends it out. So the binaural panner, as we right click on the panner itself, we can now select the binaural panner. All right. Now, when I double click this, you're going to see that things are a little different. All right. So this is the planer or the planner. So think of it this way. This is a very linear, horizontal, 360-degree panner. So if it's dead center mono in front of you, it's going to be right here, dead center. Pretend you're right here in the center. So a mono signal will be right out in front of you. And there it is. And I'll do the same thing we did before. I will pan left and I will pan right, and you'll hear the difference. That's off to the right. That's off to the left. Okay. So now, technically speaking, if that's the regular panner from left to right, then what's all this space in the middle? So this has to do with perceptive volume. If I push play, take a look what's happening over in the VU meters. The VU meter for the cowbell is actually reaching, -6 to 0, but the master output is only reaching about -15 to -12, and that's because we pushed the sound out in front of us at a distance of about 1.5 meters. That's what's changing it. Now watch as I push the, let me just admit some more people who are sitting there in the waiting room. There we go. Let me push the sound closer to the center and watch the master track volume as it gets closer. You can see it's starting to reach now -9. You can see now it's starting to reach -6. And if I drop it dead center in the middle, whoops, it is now right on top of my head. And that means that my perception is now super loud. So again, if I push it away from me about 1.5 meters, it obviously is going to get a little lower. But if I push it closer to me, remember, you are represented right here in the middle. This is your head. This is your experience. This is your ears. This is you sitting right here in the middle of this panner. Again, if I go all the way to the outside and I drop it off to the left, drop it off to the right, I can start creeping in here. You can see my right-hand side is getting much louder. Let's start listening to it now as I do it. So I'm actually creating some sort of space. Now, mind you, it's very linear right now. It's literally, if you were to take your eyes and your ears and shoot out a laser at that level, right at that level, whatever that level is, everyone's a different height, right? But at that level, across, look at the horizon from where your eyes are, straight ahead of you, off to the right, off to the left. There's nothing up, there's nothing down. We're just going straight out from our eye and ear line. And that's what this is. Now we can move this a little bit. You want to see that? Check this out. I can actually angle this a little bit. So now I'm working in a Z axis, not just forward and backward, X and Y. We're actually working on a Z axis. So now as I move it across, it's going to start to feel like it's up above us a little bit, not just at the level of my ear, but now above my ear a little bit. Now this is where it's going to get a little more difficult to have you experience this. It would be so much better if we were all on headphones and we were able to send out this perfect stereo signal. But I do not have the technology to get you guys all a perfect output from Logic because we're all using Zoom to listen to it. And Zoom is changing things. Zoom is dummy heading everything. So it's very difficult to do that. But let's just take a look at it in terms of my left and right speakers, because I think it still will have a significant change on the signal as I move it around. So let's push that play again. Again, we're panned off far to the left. And now I'm going to start moving it closer and off to my front left. Now it's out in front of me. Now it's coming over to the right-hand side. And now it's there. Now let me push this down the way a little bit. And you see it gets softer. So it's softer when it's further away. It's louder when it's closer. All right, and you can tell too, because look at the master track VU meter. It's cranked. And even though I'm only reaching somewhere around -6 to -3, the VU meter is cranked because I'm actually pushing that sound virtually closer to me. That cowbell is coming right at my face. It's going to be louder. In the real world, a cowbell right up against your head is pretty freaking loud. All right, so let's talk about the back end of this. So all this space back here, we really didn't discuss. Let's use our microphone and our system here to show you the sound. I'll put it back out in front of me again. I'll reset this, push play, and you can see it's out in front of me, and it's sort of soft. As I get closer, it's getting much louder now that it's over my head. But now as I push it back through the x-axis, it's getting softer again. And if you had a pair of headphones on, what the software kind of lets you hear is it actually sounds like it's coming from behind you. It sounds like it's coming from behind your head. Now, if you had a movie scene where you had a couple of shots set up and shot one is over the shoulder of you looking at somebody else and you're having a conversation, and then you took away my shoulder, changing the perspective to just a close-up of the person's head, but you heard my voice, technically I'm behind the camera. So how do I get it to sound like I'm behind the camera and not right in front of the camera? And that is this kind of binaural panning, pushing that signal behind the experienced audience member. It does a pretty good job of doing that. Again, very linear. So it's not like it's going to come from behind and above or behind and below. It's basically straight behind your eye and ear line. And then, of course, if I were to move it over to the right side, it would sound like it's coming from my back right. If I move it over to this side, it sounds like it's coming from my back left. And again, at a distance, closer to me. So your ears have this really great way of perceiving where it is. The downfall was that there was no software that you didn't have to extra and have to buy, that wasn't extra and had to buy, that could do this. But Logic has it built in where you can actually create space, put things where they belong, where they should be. Now, how does this apply to music production? I know that no one has really experimented with doing backup vocals or doubling vocals and then putting it into a three-dimensional space. But it's done. It's done a lot. It's done to create thickness in a vocal track, to create ghosting sounds for guitars and leads. Man, you could throw it behind an audience and a perceptually behind them and then throw reverb on just that signal. And man, it's coming from way back there. It's reflecting off the front. You can even have it reflect out in front of you and bounce back. The perceptions are almost limitless. The amount of ways that we can manipulate the audio here is astronomical. And this is just the planar. This is just a simple 360-degree flat line around your ear and eye line, right? Because you're experiencing it with your ears and seeing it with your eyes. But let's get third dimensional. Let's go up above our heads, because this isn't technically above our heads. This is literally like in our brains. That's where we are in the middle. But let's say we wanted to go above our head. Let's go into the spherical panner. Oh my God. So now instead of it coming right to my head, it's actually going to travel over my head and then around the back. Instead of going off to the left and traveling over, it's actually going underneath, almost going through it, around the back. Look at that. You could see this is the sound source. This is your head. You're facing north. If I want it to come out in front of me, there it is. If I want it to come out behind me, there it is, off to the left, off to the right, and so on and so forth. So you could see that I could actually have this sound travel and rotate above my head all over the place. And same thing, we could have it travel below me, right underneath me. So let's hear the results through the binaural Zoom with one mic and one speaker. Let's hear what the sound sounds like now. And I'm going to push it out in front just to give you, again, another reference area. Here it is. Same result as before. Hand it off to the right. Let's travel. Off to the left. Behind me. Coming over in front of me. Spin it back behind me. You see the volume is relatively the same in front and behind, but what's the difference in the sound? That's what you're looking for. Listen to the clarity out in front of you. And see how they did a great job of taking a little more of the high end and muffling it when it's behind you, because you're not getting direct sound. Your pinna of your ears are actually blocking some of those high frequencies. And the result is this perceptual muffling of sound. It's not, huge. It's not a big change, but it's just enough that your brain goes, oh, that's behind me. Let's see what else is down here. There's a bunch of other ways we can manipulate this. My thought process is that you don't want to diffuse field compensation. That's something I tend to stay away from, because you're going to get a little bit of a different signal. And then my Doppler, I do leave off. I like that. The other thing I can do is actually change the size of the room. So now a push out front is going to be much further, a 20 meter. So you can hear it's almost, you can't even hear it. So again, you can actually design the relative space. By the way, 20 meters is somewhere around 66 feet or so. So that's about 66 feet out in front of you, that cowbell. And now I'm going to travel it and push it closer. That's now 66 feet above you. That's now 66 feet behind you. That's off to the left. That's off to the right. Again, if we want to shrink the field, everything's going to be nice and loud. If we wanted 1 meter around my head, right? 1 meter around my head is only about 3 feet or so. So 1 meter around my head is pretty close. This cowbell's 3 feet off to my right, 3 feet off to my left, 3 feet out from me, 3 feet behind me. So to get the biggest changes as well is actually creating and knowing your size of your space. Let's put the Doppler on and see the difference. I'm going to throw this again out in front of me. With the Doppler on at roughly a 1.5 meter default. You hear it gets really, really high frequency tinging here. Now you can hear the muffled sound behind me. Off to my left. Off to my right. So the Doppler in this sense doesn't do much to the signal. There's not much change. It really starts coming into play when you have a much bigger space and size. So that's something that you would kind of have to play with and find out if that's the direction you want to head in. So there is the ability to do, yes, flat panning across the entire 360 degrees around your head. But then there's also the spherical where we can raise the signal above our heads, push it out and up away from us or closer to us. The further we are on the outside of this graph, the higher it is above our heads. And we can have it travel under and over us as much as we'd like. And this is the way that Logic uses the binaural pan. Now, I actually took a stereo signal, just so you know, and converted into a mono, just so this particular example would work out better. All right, let's put ourselves back in the pan and put ourselves back into a stereo signal. All right, so here's, obviously we're still going to hear it. When I pan off left, it's still pan left. When I pan off right, it still pans right. Okay. There is a stereo pan and there is a binaural pan, and this is relatively new. So this is the ability to pan the signal left and right using a stereo panner. What we're more accustomed to looking at in Pro Tools, which was two independent panners, one for the left channel and one for the right channel. They've actually combined it into one panner, which is very cool. And then, of course, we can still do binaural panning, but things get a little crazy in this one. So let's go into our planer for a moment. And now we have the ability to utilize our left and our right independently. Let's see if I can make that happen here. Nope, wrong one. Where is it? Come on. Oh, that's kind of cool. I like doing that. That's fun. See, if I hold down Command, I can actually lock into one of the grid lines. So I get close, I lock into this one, so I can't do anything else. It actually gives you a really good way when you're doing automation to stay on that same one. To take your mouse and to try to trace that line is kind of a pain. But if you hold down Command, it actually sets you into a nice little line around it. But that's not what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to get this to be left and right directly. Where is it? I think it's actually now a setting probably down here. No, it's not. I wonder why it's not letting me separate my left and right now. Nope. Nope. Shift move? No. Maybe it's a multi thing now. I'll have to look it up because they changed the way that. Oh, I don't know. Wawa, did you see that some of the shortcuts are now changed too? I don't know if you noticed that. Oh, that's a cool one. Look at that. That is a direct throw through the central axis from one side to the other. So you move your thing, claw click actually throws you through that central axis. Sorry, Wawa, what were we saying?
Not really.
No, I mean the basic ones are still there. They just made a bunch of new ones.
I didn't take that part of it yet.
Okay. All right, no worries. I just thought maybe you'd notice right away because I noticed there was one or two that I do use a lot that are a little more advanced. They changed and adapted different ways of doing it. This I've done before, and I'm not sure why I can't separate left and right. I mean, you could definitely see that there's an R there. So I'm trying to see why I can't break out of that R and give me independent left and right. Maybe in spherical will be better. No, still not giving me that thing here. I'll have to look that up and what they've done to change this. But yeah, I mean, the thought process is if you have two independent signals, a left and a right, I should have two independent binaural panners, right? Two dots where I can actually have them spread apart and I can actually move them together left and right like I'm driving a car. It's actually I've done that a few times and I'm not sure why now I'm stuck together. Starting to annoy me a little bit here. Well, that I know I can do. Maybe it's peace sign. No, it's not that. No, it's not that. Nope, not that. Not that. Not that. I'm trying all my quick keys, my shortcuts, and they're not working. That's all right. I'll figure it out. Bring it back to you guys later. So, regardless of being in stereo or mono, I use mono because it's a very big change. And when you go back to mono, you see you'll lose your stereo panner, if you notice, right? And let's go back into stereo and show it to you again. There's stereo pan, right? And all you get is basically the ability to pan off left and right, and there it is. And you could change direction and you can move and manipulate things one way or the other. But really, like that, if you see, I can lock in and push it off there. Or as a reset, as a group, I can, come on, reset, reset, reset. No. And I can work with it independently. So this actually allows you a little more stereo changing, which is nice. But at the same time, it's not quite as extensive as the binaural panner is, where you can really go in and change some stuff. So now let's see how that affects our automation. You know, this is very interesting. I'm in a binaural panner. Let me just reset everything here quick. Put myself back in mono because it's just easier to work with for a moment. So I'm in my binaural panner, and I want to automate pan. Take a look at it. So I throw in pan, and I have a plus minus, right? But you see, I have the ability to pan left and right. So here it is. Let's see what's happening in the software. Let's see what's happening. I'll start really hard left, and we'll go to hard right here. Interesting. So why isn't my binaural panner working? Well, that's because this isn't actually binaural panning. Binaural angle and radius is where we're going to find those binaural panners. So if you just go to pan, we're really just using, we're really just using this pan. Now you'll see the difference. See? That's the old school panner, which is fine to use if you'd like to. But if you want to do automation and binaural panning, you'll have to now use binaural angle and binaural radius. So again, the radius is the outside, right? This part over here, how far away you are. Let's go back to the beginning. Let's put ourselves into right mode. It's going to tell us that we want touch or latch, and I'm going to say let's go to touch. All right. Let's push a little play, and let's make some things happen here. And there we go. So I can automate how that sound travels within the space. How cool is that? Right? I am now moving the button using automation. So if I had a sound that was floating out in front of me, coming within, you know, I guess 1.5 meters of where I am, and then traveling outward a little bit, coming back in and floating off to the right or back to the left. You know, if you had like a butterfly sound, or if you had a bird sound or hummingbird sound, you wanted that sound to really travel in that space, to come close to the camera, to travel away from that camera, to move within a 3-dimensional space, you can do that. And now listen, I'll put the microphone closer just to the right channel so you can hear the differences in volume of the right-hand channel. Again, you're not going to get the full experience of the binaural panner through this microphone, but you'll get a concept of the differences. You can see, as being part of the right-hand channel, it gets louder as the sound travels closer to that channel. It gets much louder. Let's do the radius then. Let's do the radius I did do. That's right. I was moving both at the same time. So when we're using angle and radius, we can change a lot of differences in what's happening as the sound floats around. Let's do some negative moves on this one. Let's go back and let's undo all that. And we'll go back to the binaural radius. We'll reset this. Actually, I want to get out of that. I want to get rid of those. Get rid of them. Is that better? There we go. So we'll go to main, we'll go to angle, reset this out in front of us. And this time, I'm not just going to use the space out in front of us. We're actually going to use the bottom half as well, as we put ourselves in touch mode, and we'll put ourselves in a playback. And here we go. We'll have it travel. So what I tried to do was I tried to swing around the radius as it's playing back. I'll do it again. Travel back a little bit, get rid of that. I don't know why the angle's there. There we go. Ugh. All right, we'll just delete all that. Bye-bye. Automation information. Back to our angle. Get on our binaural panner. Jap that back up there. I'm going to hold down command. I'm going to push play, and it will play back, and hopefully I can do it fast enough so I do one full rotation around as it's playback. And there we go. Perfect. So you can see I started at 0, ended up at 0, did a full 360-degree pan, and this is what it sounds like. You're listening to it in the right ear only. I know you guys are hearing volume difference, which is then reflecting how it's traveling from the left-hand side to the right-hand side. Let's throw ourselves in the spherical. Now, we're not changing any of the parameters here. There's still an angle, which is what we're changing, and the elevation and the distance. So all that kind of stays the same in this, but then maybe when we get over to our radius, we'll have to make some changes here. So let's see what happens. I still feel like it's moving around my head. This time, I think it's option. Is that the end? No, it's control. So yeah, that's what I'll do. Undo that. So this time during playback, I'm going to rifle it right over my head as it's spinning. Let's see what happens. I'll go back to beginning. Push play. Oh, I couldn't do it because it was still locked in for that. So let's have it travel. Come on. Oh, that's why. It's control. All right, so we'll put ourselves over here and put ourselves into radius, and we'll move it down over here so it moves with that as well. There we go. Okay, let's see how that works out. So I had it travel right to the center and then spin around using the angle right to the center and does like a nice little spin there. And I can go back actually and erase. Let's go back and change that radius measurement because it was a little too close. And I still want to get the experience of it flying around my head. So I'll make it roughly around to the outside circle here. Now let's listen to it. There you go. Look at that. Send it down to the middle, spin it around. Send it closer, spin it around. That's one way you can manipulate both angle and radius of the binaural panner. And so we're just automating the very simple parameters of angle and distance. And again, if I used the regular panner, I could make things happen as well. But the regular panner is just your straight left and right out in front of you. That doesn't really help us very much when we want to create sound in a three-dimensional space. Again, this software has done a great job of adding features to it year after year after year to kind of keep up with the demand in the industry for sound to move around. We've talked about VR, all right, and the ambisonic microphones that are out there. But now, how do I take those ambisonic mics and in conjunction take 4 different tracks or 2 tracks that are mixed together and use this binaural panner to really make this space feel like you're there? Like if I dropped a pencil 10 feet off to my left, it was there on the floor, not on the ceiling. The pencil didn't drop on the ceiling. The pencil dropped to the floor due to gravity. What if I took a fan in the upper left-hand corner of my studio and turned it on? Do I hear it in the upper left-hand corner? Not the lower, not in front of me, not off to the right. This is the way that engineers take sound, manipulate it, and put it within a space. The result can be folded down to just a stereo file. I can actually bounce this as a very simple stereo file, adhering to all the current industry standards, and it would still make it sound like it was in a three-dimensional space. I don't have to have a special file format. I don't have to have special speakers. Really, the best experience is pretty much with your headphones, but I could still experience a little bit of it here with my laptop and my speakers coming out of that. You know, like I said, the differences of sound behind you is it's a little muffled. It's a little different. So if you're trying to reenact that moment in reality, these are the tools and the ways you can do that. Anybody have any questions about the binaural panner, the regular panner, the planar, or the spherical? Anyone want me to demo anything again or show anything again that you might have lost along the way here? Like I said, I'm going to put this image up for you guys a little later today, probably right after I upload the video for today's class to YouTube. Also, I wanted to show you this. Oh, yeah, we're not going to do that. Goodbye. So, a little project I've been working on, and let's try to apply very quickly something like the ability to place drums or the ability to place vocals in a three-dimensional space. So this is the signal. Oh, a little loud, sorry. Try to be good when I'm gone. I just wish it didn't have to be so long. Hey, look at that. Look at that magic that just happened here. Would you look at that? There's my left and right that I was looking for. It's a good thing I actually went into this. So if I wanted to, again, take, and this is what I was trying to show you before for some reason, maybe I was still on mono on the track. If I wanted to take this, basic stereo field, so this is, basically what a stereo track would look like. Your left is off to the left a little bit, your right is off to the right, and your mono signal is there, and you're fed by all these to the center point where you're listening. So this is just the vocal track, right? Let's go into this guy. All right, am I on vocals or am I not on vocals? Oh my god. Oh my god. I didn't want to do that. Go back into this one. I just wanted to do vocals. And we'll do a binaural pan. Of course, we'll open that up. Again, here it is. I just wish it didn't have to be so long. Okay, so let's push that out. Let's widen the stereo spread. Listen to the difference here. I'll go back really quick and show you that. Sorry, I just got rid of the binaural panner for some reason. Here's the original one. I just wish it didn't have to be so long. Now let's push it out further. I just wish it didn't have to be so long. You hear the difference here? Here it is in regular stereo. I just wish it didn't have to be so long. And now here's it pushed out far, really far. I just wish it didn't have to. Now I'm going to move it while it's going into a loop. I just wish it didn't have to be so long. I just wish it didn't have to be so long. I just wish it didn't have to be so long. I just wish it didn't have to be so long. See how I can get that track to sound muffled by throwing it behind the listener, changing its perceptual space? I would probably end up doing background vocals around that area. I can also bring him closer to me in the mix. So for instance, this is how far away he is now. Now I can bring him closer. I just wish it didn't have to be so long. Now, this is not a way, and I know what people are thinking, oh, if I just push it closer, the thing is louder. That's because you recorded poor recording. You could see that I'm already really pushing it to 6.3. That's way too loud. So you don't need to do that. If you have a good recording like I do here, you're not going to need to add volume to it. That's not what this is about. We're not using the binaural panner to add volume. We're using it to add space and distance and positioning around the audience member. So cool idea to take a backtrack or a background vocal and push it behind the listener, maybe even spread it out a little more, because it really changes the way that it mixes with the one that's out in front of you. It almost feels like now you're surrounded by the vocalist. Right? So cool concepts that we can use it now in music production as well. That's where I wanted to go with that. To give you a little preview of what this is all about. So I'm not going to save this because there's a bunch of stuff going on. But yeah, again, I don't have to use it in just film and video to match positioning of things on screen. I could actually use it in one way or shape or form to create really creative mixes in music production. So I wanted to give you that secondary look and concept of how things change with like a vocal track in a music mix. Anybody else have a question about what we covered today? Some great information, some new stuff going to go up on the stream today for your notes for Friday's quiz. And in addition to that, like I said, I'll put that image up there. And if anyone didn't hand in Project 11, it was due on Sunday. It's still due. You missed the New York Times due date, so you can't hand in to them, but you can still hand in to me for your grade. Otherwise, you can get a 0. Remember, don't wait till the middle or end of June to hand anything in, because it will be a lot of work to do within a 2-week period that was assigned over the course of a 3-month period. And don't just think nothing's going to happen. I'm just throwing it out there. Make sure you make up the work. Today's a nice day, unfortunately, but by Friday, I think you have some bad days, and next week is a couple of rainy days. So make the best of the nice days, and then make the best productively of the bad days. All right, guys? Well, listen, I'll see you guys all tomorrow at 10 a.m. right here on the Zoom. I appreciate everyone coming out. Holla, holla, holla.